The Pirelli GT4 America season enters its home stretch with just 5 races left to settle 3 class championships. Race 1 yesterday saw RS1 and Bimmer World take another step toward the Silver and AM class titles respectively, while the Pro-Am battle is an all-out brawl with no less than 5 teams still within striking distance as the campaign begins to draw to a close. Hello and welcome to Road America, America's National Park of Speed. It's a pleasure to have your company. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and Shea Adam is down in the pit lane as we get set for race 2 of the weekend for Pirelli GT4 America. Race 1 yesterday, Calvin, it was a wild one. When we left the air, we still weren't sure what the results would look like. So let's sort it out. What did we learn post-race yesterday?
Well, it got a little bit spicy there towards the end, and unfortunately for Ian James with that little bump on Jason Hart, he was dropped a couple of positions, and that promoted Adam Adelson, Elliott Ski up to the win in Pro-Am. As we've talked about, Stephen Mackler, Eric Filgaris has just dominated the championship year, 8 wins out of 9, the 8th one coming here yesterday. And in the AM class, well, there was a change there at the end as well with the Random Vandals team getting a penalty as well, so losing that victory for Paul Spada and Al Carter with Anthony Girazzi and Jaden Conrad getting the win for Krug. So a big day for that team, but it was a great race, but unfortunately a little bit of argy-bargy there at the end.
Oh, there was smoke coming out of our ears as the gears ground to a halt trying to figure out what exactly happened yesterday, and maybe the strangest bit of it was the penalty in Pro-Am that you mentioned. The team that you would think it would help because it helped them on track, it actually hurt them in the championship.
Yeah, it did, because Jason Hart was going for the lead. He grabbed the lead momentarily there in turn 1, a brilliant maneuver, and then down into turn 3, he and Ian James got together. Jason was off the road. He dropped back to 3rd. Well, that meant Adam Allison was, Elliott Ski was running ahead of him. That was going to be a 3-point gain. But when they dropped Ian James back, that suddenly made it a 7-point lead. And with that, Jason Hart, Scott Noble now lose the lead in this championship. It was only 4 points coming in, and now it's 3 points in the other direction. So big delta there, and kind of an irony there in terms of Jason Hart getting, well, not rewarded, but getting a penalty on Ian James' call for the contact, but in effect losing more ground in the championship.
Only Calvin Fish could parse through that in real time, and that's what he did for us yesterday, and hopefully it makes sense to you folks at home as we're about ready to turn him loose. By the way, a quick note, if you're looking for the heart of racing, Aston Martin, it was involved in a big crash earlier today in the GT America, powered by AWS race. Gray Newell has been taken to a local hospital for precautionary reasons. He is awake and alert and appears to be relatively uninjured, and that is great news, but they will not answer the bell for race 2 in Pirelli GT4 America as a result. Here comes the field, headed towards the VP Fuels acceleration zone. It's located at the very top of this incredibly steep hill. They will move that direction, and then Eric Filgaris in the RS1 Porsche to the left-hand side of the screen. It's his duty to set the pace. When he goes, the green flag comes out. It does. He's got Aaron Tielitz alongside in a Smooge Racing Toyota Supra. A couple little moves left and right, already 3 and 4 wide. And look at that from Kenton Cook in the B Sport Aston. He's trying to grab the 2nd spot at least.
There was almost contact there between Aaron Tielitz and Kenton Cook as they came across the stripe there. And now Kenton Cook has elbowed his way into that P2 position. Aaron's going to take it around the high side, can't make it, to slot back into 3rd. Great move by Terry Borchard. He had the fastest lap of the race here yesterday, slides his car into 4th.
4th overall, but the lead in the AM class, and by a healthy margin. That Karas team has been fast all weekend long with Terry behind the wheel, side by side. It's Andy Lee to the inside in the Flying Lizard Aston Martin. Elliott Skier working his way to the outside. This is for a Pro-Am position.
Look at that, elbows are out coming through turn 5. Tielitz to the outside, Kenton Cook to the inside. How's that going to play out by the time they get to the brake zone for turn 6? Kenton Cook giving him just enough room. Tielitz really wide. Borchard follows in his footsteps.
It has been feisty between these two since the drop of the green. Halfway around Road America for the first time. This is Hurry Downs. The run to turn number 8. Kenton Cook again popping out of line, but Tielitz, the open wheel exile who's found a home in sports car racing with Toyota and Lexus, looking right at home in the GT4 machine.
Yeah, and that's allowed Eric Filgaris to take the pressure off him and kind of just get into his groove out front, about 4 car length lead as they exit the carousel.
And that has brought Terry Borchard right into the mix. Kenton Cook senses that. He's going to go defensive. He doesn't want to lose track of the car ahead of him because Tielitz is the Pro-Am class leader.
gosh, those Supras through that high-speed kink. The driver's been talking about. Oh, there's a big movement. There's a spin there, I feel, in the back of the pack. There's a red car going around, I thought, or did he save it? That was wild. There was a car completely sideways there coming off the kink.
Looked like it was one of the Ettore, or it might have been actually the Dexter Racing Supra, I think.
Cameron Lawrence off and on here, on debut with this race team here this weekend. Manages to keep it together. Now he gets to the inside of Andy Lee. Brilliant start here for Cameron Lawrence.
Really underrated driver, performs anytime he gets a chance, whether it's in a GT machine or he's been doing a lot of Trans Am racing in recent years. Back with that Lone Star Racing team. We've seen them in this paddock before, but running here in the GT4 class.
Up front, silver class overall leader Eric Filgueras, Pro-Am leader Aaron Thielitz right behind him.
I do think it was the Dexter car that was temporarily off track, but it looks like he was able to continue on. Lost 5 spots and dropped from 11th to 16th overall, but still is continuing. If that's the case, that is an amazing save.
I'm not sure if I overreacted, but I thought that was a definite crash, so certainly the guy behind the wheel didn't overreact and kept it together. Wow.
Look at this, getting interesting at the front of the field with Filgueras now sensing some pressure from Thielitz. We'll keep an eye on all this battling, but first, let's hear from Shea Adam.
The 35 Mercedes from Conquest Racing has been in the pits. Paolo Carsarsi, who started the car, brought it in. Sounded like it wasn't firing on all cylinders, but they've had the computer plugged in and they're trying to diagnose if things are getting better. It does sound to the ear as if the car is running a bit more smoothly now, but this car, which is in the AM category, still has Custodio Toledo to get in it a bit later on. The Brazilian pairing, good friends from back home in Miami.
And so much experience on the part of Paulo Karkoski, who has raced at a very high level, including winning the Formula 3 Japan Championship all the way back in 1991. So he's been at this game for a while.
Yeah, I remember him when he drove for Van Diemen in Formula Ford over in England for Ralph Furman there in the Duckham's car. Just a traditional livery, very famous livery with a lot of success in those junior Formula days. So he's had an extensive experience. Great to see him competing here on North American soil.
It was a welcome surprise when he was nominated to that car, but some misfortune to start race 2 of the weekend here today. This is Terry Borchard. Speaking of veterans, he's been at this for a while too and has a nice CV to show for it, giving this AM-class car a really good run.
Yeah, we talked about this Toyota Supra, a very strong platform, has had success, won the AM Championship last year with Kevin Conway and John Jesbray. And they really just seem to keep fine-tuning this car, developing it and getting more and more performance out of it. And it has been really, really quick here this weekend. It's got good straightaway speed and just excellent handling.
Best finish on the season, 5th. That was in the season opener back at Sonoma, but right now holding the lead in class. Next best placed car in the AM class. It's all the way back in 17th overall. So Terry doing what he needs to do before Nick Shanny takes the controls right around the midway point. The mandatory pit stop window.
Thielitz looked like he is really close to Filgueras there as they came down the moraine sweep into turn 5. Not sure if he was able to think about a move there.
The two ran laps within a tenth of one another, 44 thousandths separating Filgueras from Thielitz. Filgueras with the narrow edge. Thielitz might have had a shot at pole in qualifying for this race. Oh, we got the winner from the AM class yesterday. That's the Krug Speed white car just up at the front of this field, off track, and also Tim Hurl in the BMW, also off track, but they're back on and they rejoin. But Thielitz, it looked like he might have the pace to go for pole, caught traffic at a bad time, and cost him a chance to fight at the very front. This is what happened with that off. Independent of one another, interesting.
Just both of them ran a little bit wide. They used that little bit of runoff area that you have down in turn 5 to work with. Thielitz firing it through the kink, trying to keep Filgueras honest here, but he's got to think about the big picture. Love those overall wins, but he's got a healthy lead in his class right now. Kenton Cook is about 2¼ seconds back of this lead battle, but again, he just wants to hand it over his teammate Stephen McAleer in the best shape possible. Tire-wise, got to manage these tires here over the 60-minute stint. Pit stop window opens between minute 25 and 35 of this 60-minute race, but the same tires stay on board. And this racetrack is particularly abrasive, Ryan, in terms of tire degradation.
That's right. That's something that we've been hearing about throughout the paddock, and there are no tire changes in Pirelli GT4 America, which means these are about the longest stints these Pirellis will be doing all weekend long in any of the series racing here. A full 60 minutes between the two drivers. Oh, Tielitz, he wants to get to the very front. Not only does he love this racetrack, this is home turf for him. He's from nearby Rice Lake.
Quick correction on my part there. Cook is in the battle with Tielitz for the class position, not with Filgueira. So the nearest silver driver is way back in 8th. John Jesbray, about 7 seconds back.
Talked about how close these two were in lap times that last time by. Tielitz with the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, but it was awfully tight as it was the lap before. The Supra looking strong down the Moraine sweep, headed to turn 5. He's going to take a peek to the outside as Filgueira goes on the defensive.
They're pretty evenly matched there. Aaron just tried to get into the best lane there for the brake zone for turn 5, but didn't see much between them in terms of the straightaway speed. Spoke to Aaron this weekend. He just loves competing in this GT4 class. He said the cars aren't so aero-dependent as the GT3 car that I'm used to running. Just allows for great battling. Tires a little bit skinnier, car is sliding around. And there's always a battle somewhere in this field.
These two cars, despite being in different classes, technically, are in a class of their own, figuratively, because they are the only two cars running in the 218s. Everyone else, mid-219s or above. These two are down in the mid to high 218s based on the last few laps. So that's allowed them to build a gap of nearly 3 seconds over Kenton Cook, who runs 3rd overall.
Yeah, and that's rarefied air. We certainly saw Terry Borchard down in that zone there yesterday, but not too many drivers have cut through that 219 barrier here this weekend.
Tielitz took a peek, now pops back in line. Close enough to make a move. Filgueira fighting a rear guard action at the front of this field from pole position. Not in a position he's been in, though, very often. You think about how dominant they've been, and it's not like they've been fending off a lot of challenges left and right. This is a new spot for Eric in this campaign.
Yeah, it really is, and I think it's great for him to go up with guys like Aaron Tielitz, who have so much experience, so much pace, and he's certainly demonstrating he can run with the top dogs in this championship.
Looks like behind this pairing, Cook in the Aston and Borchard in the Supra. A good battle breaking out for 3rd in Pro-Am. Elliott Skiers got this spot, but only by 1/10 of a second because Andy Lee has designs on taking it away. And Cameron Lawrence, who we talked about earlier, charging up himself.
Yeah, and when we think about strategy here in terms of how deep into this race these cars will stay out on the racetrack with the pros on board or the higher graded drivers, you'd think that they'd go a little bit deeper into that 10-minute window and try and execute as much speed out of these race cars here with a faster driver on board.
Cameron has caught them. This is the 2014 TA2 champion. Trans Am Series.
Like the Merc loses a little bit of ground there down the run through the Moraine sweep. Cook and Borchard exiting turn 5. Lawrence staying in touch there with Skier and Lee.
You can see the ebbs and flows of the 3 different platforms. Some will excel in one spot of the track, but maybe fall back to the opposition in another. Keep our eyes on this, but while we do so, let's hear about Smooge Racing with Shea Adam.
Todd Coleman kind enough to come off the pit stand and take his eyes off the action as well. How nerve-wracking is it to sit on the box and watch Aaron do what he does best?
I'm not gonna lie, the pressure's building. I got a timer on my phone right now, and I'm watching him do what he does best. He's a machine, so we've been in this position before. We're not gonna repeat what happened in Watkins Glen, but I'm praying he gives me a big enough lead, and I just gotta go out and hit my marks.
How much fun is it to actually share the car with your driver coach?
Oh, this season's been amazing. Like, Aaron and I have been together. This is our 2nd season, but we turned it up a notch big time this year, and so it's been fantastic to have him alongside me, moving from just strictly coaching to being in the car, feeling the same things, verifying the things that I think are going on in the car. So it's been incredibly rewarding.
Good luck today, Todd.
Thank you so much.
He's going to like what he sees here. Tielitz is
here.
absolutely working over Filgueira, and Eric had a compromised entry into 14. The Supra very stout in the drag race, and that's where he finds himself now, in the slipstream, down by the pit wall, the long haul down to turn number 1.
Yeah, as you said, Aaron is certainly working him over, but right now Eric seems to be half a step in front in terms of placing that car in the right spot. He runs a little bit wide here. Thielett's going to tuck it to the inside. He may be in position as they get to the brakes for turn 3. Yes, he is.
Gives him just enough room, and Filgaris will let him slip on past. He was left with no recourse. Overall lead to Aaron Thielett in Smooth Racing. Now, Eric Filgaris slips back into line, running second overall, but still with a very healthy lead in silver.
Yeah, just compromised his line there up into turn 1 and just ran that little bit wide. Then you get over on the curbing and the bumps and you can't quite get the power down as early. Aaron saw it coming and carved that Toyota to the inside and got the job done. Nice work. And as his teammate looks on, half a smile, but now the pressure is really on, Todd. Get ready.
Well, let's talk about it, because you're right. This is a Pro-Am class. Day 2 of the weekend sees the pros start that car, which means you can have a driver like Todd, who's relatively new to racing, has some good pace.
Filgaris in trouble here. He's dropped dramatically back from Thielett's.
It's an interesting point.
Todd, yeah, he's in trouble.
Yep.
Sure if he's got a tire going down. Definitely off the pace here. Yeah, left front. Oh, maybe suspension brake. That's more than a tire.
And this is really the first serious misfortune to befall this team all season. They have finished no worse than 4th, only 1 4th. Everything else has been a win, but something wrong with the left front of that car, full course yellow. And this figures to be their first non-point scoring event of the season, and that might just let others back into that silver points battle conversation.
Yeah, I mean, he went a little bit wide through turn 1. I mean, it's a bit of a rough road out there. I didn't see him really hit a big pothole out there, but you have to wonder whether that has damaged that left front suspension. So Thielett has the lead, which is good news, but unfortunately for him, that's really just going to compress this field and not give his teammate Todd Coleman such a gap to work with when we get to the pit stop window.
That's exactly right. All that hard work to build the margin goes away with the full course yellow. Kitten Cook now will jump up to 2nd overall, still leading in Pro-Am. And the Am class leader runs 3rd overall. So how about this? 3 different classes in the top 3.
That's what makes it so interesting, just the dynamic. How hard do you want to fight? Do you want to just let Aaron go and just tuck back in and just really work on your silver class lead? But for Eric Filgaris, he wanted to fight and maybe putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with a dozen, but he certainly ran a little bit wide here through that corner. You see it gets a little bit rough when you get beyond the hash marks there.
Those curbs are not insignificant. They were put in to get the attention of the NASCAR guys when they started running here. And some of these GT cars might not quite the suspension travel. You'll feel it in a big way. Don't know if that led to anything coming dislodged or what the issue might be, but certainly for Eric Filgaris and Stephen McAleer, this is a bitter taste they have not been subjected to all year long.
For Terry Borchard of the M-Class lead, that's the last thing he wanted to see. He sits 3rd overall with the M-Class lead, and the next nearest M-Class runner is down in 16th with Filzinger.
Yeah, Alex Filsinger down there driving for Autotechnic, BMW. Rob Walker, his co-driver. This is a look at John Jesbray, who now finds himself as the silver class leader, running 8th overall. They are looking for their first win of the season. Disappointment yesterday. Remember, Kevin Conway had the weird incident coming into the pit lane where he got into the back of, what was that?
That was the Toyota, wasn't it?
It was a Supra. Exactly who it was, I don't remember. But at any event, it certainly did cause some damage to that car. They got a penalty for that. Cost them any chance at a good result.
It was Kevin Saunders.
Yes, it was. You're right. In the Conquest JMF Mercedes, which has been one of the best silver class cars all season, but is now all the way down in 12th overall, 2nd in class right now. Only a few cars separating Mackay Stevens in that car from Jesbray. Let's see if we can look at what might have happened to Eric Filgaris, something is already amiss. You can see the wheel wobbling.
That front was eventually going to fail. As he comes through this corner, he's definitely feeling something. Slows way down. I suddenly saw the gap increase from Aaron, and then by the time he got to turn 8, he was in dire straits.
Well, that is a sad sight. Eric Filgaris looks forlornly at his beached Porsche Cayman. What has been a near picture-perfect season. This will just be their second race through 10 where they have not won. The first one in which they will not score points, but they did have a healthy lead in that championship coming in. We're going to look at this again. This is into turn 1, Calvin. You saw him take that compromised line. He runs wide here. What do you think?
Well, let's just wait and see how it finishes off. It's right at the end there. No, I don't think that would have been a rough enough ride, but maybe he already had some suspension failure going on as to why he actually ran wide in the first place. You know, if that thing was starting to collapse on him a little bit, I thought it was the compromised line, but maybe he's already having issues there, and that's why he ran so wide through that corner, allowing Aaron to get the run on him down into turn 3.
The points lead for Filgaris and McAleer was 65 coming into this race. 25 points maximum on offer. And right now, Gavin Sanders and Mackay Stevens, they got to be licking their chops. They're the closest pursuers, and they know if they want any shot at being in title contention going to Indianapolis, this is a day they have to maximize.
Yeah, because the way things are going, it would have been locked out. It would have been close to 100 points on today.
Sounds like while we're on the safety car, this would be a good time to go down to the pits once again, and Shay has an update for us.
If you guys want a bit of a happy story, look no further than accelerating performance number 55, the car that is shared between Moise Turetsky and Justin Piscatel. Justin started the race today. This car, which did not run at all yesterday, is the backup car in essence. It ran this morning during the GT America race, Moise doing the honors there. Justin started the car today. They're up to 20th overall after beginning at the back of the pack, 12th in class. So they're moving their way steadily forward. Justin and Moise, who are a coach and protege pairing, trying to use every weekend lap that they can to just learn more. And for Justin, clearly the car is to his liking.
It's a great pairing. They've been working together for a while, and Moise very busy, running in multiple championships this year. MX5 Cup, he's been doing some Porsche single make stuff in addition to this. Justin Piscatel, you don't see him as often in a race seat, probably as he deserves to be, but when he's plugged in, he's always on the pace, and he's been charging through the field.
Yeah, he was kind of known as the super sub. Whenever he got an opportunity, he'd jump into something and immediately be at the sharp end of the field. So, very talented driver. And Shay alluded to nice progress in the race here today.
28th overall, but 12th in Pro-Am. Not bad coming from as far back as they did. A nearly 40-car grid took the green for this race. Elliott Skier, Adam Adelson. They were right in the middle of things yesterday, end up as the points leaders in Pro-Am with the penalty that you chronicled earlier that involved the other two that were fighting for the win yesterday, Heart of Racing and NOLA Sport. 3-point edge coming in, and they have been fairly consistent, only failing to score points a single time all season.
Yeah, and they're looking in great shape here today as well, as everyone's getting stretched and limbered up, ready for their stint behind the wheel. That's Scott Noble, isn't it?
Think so. Pit lane will be busy here shortly. We're just over 4 minutes away from the window opening. The cleanup should be a quick one. We saw the car retrieved already. There it is. And they'll get that to a safe spot. And once it's there, we should be able to get back to the green flag. If for whatever reason the safety car period starts to infringe upon the pit window, then we will see that window shifted backwards to one full lap after the restart, and then on that subsequent lap, that's when the pit window would open up. But that's only if we see this eat in, and it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think they'll just be ticking into it by the time they come back around behind the safety car. If we do good green on the next lap, and then you're right, Ryan, I think that'll be the next lap where we'll see pit lane open. But I think for these Pro-Am lineups and the stronger drivers, if they're in the car right now, they'll probably eat well into that 10-minute opportunity to try and gain a little bit of space between them and their nearest competitors. But this is the last thing that some of these teams that are having a great day wanted. They wanted to really increase that gap. As Todd Coleman, you can see he's getting ready. Kevin Conway's getting ready as well.
Smooth Racing team burst onto the scene last year, won the AM Class Championship with Conway and Jesbray, and they have expanded in a big way, running multiple cars under their tent. Tony Ave and his group, a big component in what they've been able to build in a short amount of time.
I think they anticipate being part of that new spec series from Toyota for next year, the GR Cup. So exciting times ahead for that whole group.
Toyota in general seems to be doubling down on its involvement in sports car racing. We've seen them with the Lexus program in GT3 around the world, as well as stateside. And what we've seen with the Supra is massive growth in a short amount of time. Now this new Toyota series, single make series that's on its way, will be part of the SRO umbrella next year. A lot of momentum behind Toyota in sports car racing right now.
A little bit of smoke there at the back of one of the Mustangs. I'm not sure if that was Jaden Conrad. Great to see him in our championship this weekend. Really talented young kid.
I think it is that car. That's the Motec racing car. And to your point, certainly someone to keep an eye on. An up-and-comer who's had some success, did some smaller single-seater championships early in his career, won the Formula Car Challenge West Coast FS Class Championship back in 2014, went over and did some racing in Europe, including Italian F4, driving for Vincenzo Sospiri back in 2016. And then made the switch over to sports cars back around 2019, running Porsche Carrera Cup Italia in that season. Did some more racing stateside and crucially won IMSA's Diverse Driver Development Scholarship last year, which has been a big help as part of the Lamborghini Junior Driver stable. And has been busy racing GT3s and now stepping into GT4 when this opportunity to drive alongside Edgar Lau popped up. And there you see a pit window will be delayed by 1 minute. So normally it would be 34 minutes, 59 seconds. This means 33 minutes, 59 seconds is when we'll see the pit window open up as we get set for a restart.
Yeah, this will be exciting. And now you got two Pro-Am cars leading this field, so Kenton Cook's really going to try and keep the pressure on Aaron Telitz, but it looked like Telitz had a bit more pace in this Supra than Kenton was able to wrestle out that Aston Martin during the early stages of this race.
Aaron Telitz into the VP acceleration zone, starts to bring up that pace. He accelerates up the hill, and the green flag will wave over the Smooth Racing driver, Aaron Telitz, the overall leader. Kenton Cook runs second. He is second in Pro-Am, and then Terry Borchard now running third overall, the leader in the AM class.
Yeah, this is going to be like 3-lap qualifying runs for a lot of these pros behind the wheel right now, just trying to get the hammer down, not use the tires too much, but they've had a little bit of a breather here running behind the safety car.
Side by side, Ryan Dexter being attacked, it would appear, by Zach Anderson.
Jason Hart there making a move on Cameron Lawrence. That's for P5 in the Pro-Am class.
Jason Hart was up at the very front fighting for the lead on the final lap yesterday when the contact occurred that resulted ultimately in a penalty, dropped him down a couple of spots in the final analysis. Cameron Lawrence coming back, or actually guarding the inside, because it looks like John Jesbray is trying to take that spot away.
Aaron Povolito there climbing the hill in the black and red Aston Martin, looking for some opportunity as well.
Jesbray, the leader in silver. He shares that car with Kevin Conway.
Telitz loves this circuit, home circuit for him. Lives up in the Minneapolis area now, but certainly spent a lot of time here in his childhood days around this area.
Povolito lurking. That's the Schwest Povolito Westport sponsored Aston Martin black with some red on it. And right behind him, John Capestre Dubets. JCD's not going to wait around. Here we find a fight once again between Elliott Skier and Andy Lee. This is for third and fourth in Pro-Am.
Yeah. That Flying Lizard machine has really been on form here this year. Elias Sabo grabbed a GT America win this morning. So we'll be on a high, and got to get ready to get refocused here and get behind the wheel of this Aston Martin to take it home to the checkered flag.
Pit window is open. That's the way they moved. It is available this time around, but to your point, in these Pro-Am lineups, it's unlikely we're going to see many callers early in the window with the pros occupying the seats. The silver cars, or the AM cars, potentially that might have a play here. That's interesting. That is Piscatell. And he'll turn it over to Moisey Uretsky. So that's a vote of confidence in what Moisey can do if he's given some clear track to work with.
They might be rolling the dice here in terms of if there's a yellow or a safety car, something should occur here and they got their pit stop done, it could pay them off. But outside of that, I think everyone else is on the right strategy here. Try and keep your fast drivers in as long as possible and execute the best lap times before you turn the reins over.
Todd Brown also coming in. Johann Schwartz, who was a star yesterday in the AM class, he will be taking over this car. Todd Hetherington and Jim Rappaport for TRG also in the pit lane here. So a few callers, all from the AM class except for Piscatell and Uretsky. They are in the Pro-Am class.
Johann Schwartz, he's ready to go. Slight delay there, and Todd jumping out. Hopefully it doesn't cost him too much time. Minimum time on pit lane, including the start from pit in to pit out, is 91 seconds. You do have a 1 second joker to work with. If you didn't use it yesterday, can only use it once per weekend.
Kenton Cook continues to run second. Terry Borcheller, impressive stuff, giving this Supra a great run. And behind them, Elliott Skier's got his hands full. Andy Lee desperately would love to grab third place away before he turns that car over to Elias Sabo. And Jason Hart very much in the mix too.
He is. Such irony yesterday, getting back to the story you alluded to pre-race about Jason Hart in terms of having the lead, getting bumped out of it, getting a penalty call on the driver he had contact with, but ultimately losing more in the points chase because of that penalty being included in the overall results.
Todd Brown to Johann Schwartz, by the way, reasonably quick. Just a second over. The Piscatell to Uretsky stop was a slow one, however. That is 13 seconds over the minimum, and that will hurt. Hetherington to Rappaport also about 8 seconds slower than you would like.
That is brutal.
It's an additional 8 seconds in the case of the latter. Sitting still while everyone else is at speed. So yeah, that is costly.
See how much longer they push it. Could probably go another couple of laps. Remember, this time has been shifted by a minute, so it's going to be 24 minutes on the clock. You have to be in pit lane by.
James Clay, championship leader in the AM class. Charlie Postins will take over. Then your winners in AM yesterday, Jaden Lander, Anthony Gerasi, that's the Krug Speed Supra right behind.
Saw James at dinner, or he was about to grab dinner last night here in town, along with Charlie Postins. A little bit disappointed on the day, just felt the car's balance got away from him a little bit late in the going. Ultimately were rewarded with a second place finish after the penalty was given down to the Random Vandals machine. So still a strong day in the championship, but they look disappointed. They want to get wins, and Charlie Postins really kind of earmarked this racetrack as one he wanted to do well at this weekend.
How about Aaron Tiewitz? He has just scampered away. Nearly 3 seconds the advantage. Set the CrowdStrike fastest lap in doing so, by the way. And leads this race overall, doing what he needs to do to give Todd Coleman, his co-driver, a bit of a buffer when he hops in.
Well, as we said, it's hammer time for these pros. Basically, you got 3 or 4 laps of qualifying type times you want to lay down and try and give your teammate as much margin to work with for when they get behind the wheel. Skier and Andy Lee. Jason Hart trying to close in on these drivers here, see if he can do anything with them before he jumps out of the race car and hands it over to Scott Noble.
That's when the race can turn on its head. It's a totally mixed up grid from race 1 to race 2 because of the pros doing the qualifying on race 2. And some of the cars that featured towards the front yesterday are a ways back, and the inverse is true too. Race 2 of these weekends tends to be a bit wild. Looking forward to what's to come here in the second half of this one. Just past the halfway mark, 28 minutes to go, and a few more pit callers. I think I saw Cameron Lawrence come on in, among others.
I think it'll only be one more lap for these leaders here. I don't think they can get any more than that without incurring a penalty. I don't think the time clock is going to work for them to do more than an additional lap.
Yeah, so here's Lawrence. That's the Lone Star Mercedes. Then you've got John Jesbray in the pit lane, although it's not showing up on the timing screen, but clearly he's there. That'll be Kevin Conway taking over the silver class leading car. John Capestre Dubets will give over to Tom Capizzi, Jaden Conrad, Ryan Dexter, Alex Filsinger, and on down the line. These are the cars that don't want to roll the dice on one more lap. Maybe find a little clear track to work with, courtesy of this stop. Comes Kevin Conway, getting ready to jump in after a great opening stint from young John Jesbray.
Yeah, there's a different synchronization to these stops. You could see Kevin Conway there wanted the driver helper to be first to the race car, didn't want to be in the way. So they practice and rehearse this. There's plenty of time, but if you have any little problem and panic kicks in, suddenly you can be outside that minimum delta.
Looks like a nice, clean exchange for the Smooge Racing crew. Now they wait. They'll have time that exit. They know what the egress time is to make sure they get it as close to that minimum time without going under.
Didn't see any of the team looking at tire pressure or anything, so would assume that Jesbray is pretty happy with the balance on that Toyota.
All the stops we're seeing. Capestre Dubets to Capizzi right there in the ballpark. Conrad to Lau, similar story. Dexter to Starkweather, right there where you want to be. Filsinger to Walker, a couple seconds slow. But just about everyone executing as you would expect at this point in the season. Everyone's been practicing these stops all year long. Early in the year, every once in a while you see a miscue or two, but these teams have it pretty well worked out by this stage.
Here comes Aaron Telitz. You can see the time on the clock. No time to do an additional lap, but fastest lap around 2:18. Certainly hammer time there, bringing it right up to the line. Ticking every box here in terms of the valuable tenths of a second to increase that margin for his teammate.
Yeah, you saw the puff of smoke off the right front. Even with the ABS, he did lock that one up. But he's in the pit lane now. The overall leader, Aaron Telitz. Todd Coleman waiting anxiously for his turn behind the wheel of the overall leading car. Everyone else who has not made their stop, they come down pit lane now.
Gotta be careful you don't get a flat spot even with the ABS because tires stay on, unlike for Aaron normally. It's always a fresh set of skins going on that race car, and you can just blister them if you want to, so hopefully you didn't get a flat spot there with that momentary lockup.
This is the Smooge Racing crew. Just got done with their silver class car. Now they go here. Coleman and Telitz, the Pro-Am entry leaders overall. Telitz got the job done as you'd expect a driver of his caliber to do. Looked like they were looking for the belts, though, under Todd a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a scramble there, so have to wait and see how this one plays out. Nick Shanley now jumping on board the number 20, Terry Borchard. Excellent opening stint here today.
Those belts nice and tight. Window net in position. It's still waiting. That's typically good. Aaron Telitz watching on. Nick Shanley now aboard for Karis Kallis. And we'll look at the times here. Telitz does leave with the lead, but it does look like it is going to be closer. Yeah, he gave up a couple of seconds. And Cook and Putt, the B-Sport guys, got it to perfection. So that will help them close in. That is a battle for class position. The top two in Pro-Am leaving the pits nose to tail.
Yeah, and that carrot's a little bit closer here for Brian Putt now to try and chase down this Supra for the lead in class.
Keep in mind, Brian Putt's already run a race this morning. He was in the GT America powered by AWS race earlier on. And so he'll know track conditions. He'll be a bit more warmed up.
A lot of pressure on Todd Coleman here. He's loving this racing program this year. Continues to run in Ferrari Challenge a little bit, but really has a lot of focus on this program. learning the ropes from Aaron Telitz, and as you said earlier, just having that co-driver in the car, just a great sponge and sounding board to work from.
Pit window is closed. Looks like everyone did abide by that. I don't think anybody was caught out. What a great stint from the AM-Class leader, Terry Borchard. Let's hear from him now.
It really was. Coming in from the 3rd position overall, Terry, you had no threat of any other classmate behind you. How good was it to race pure racing at Road America?
Oh, it's amazing. It's my favorite track. I've been coming here since the early 80s with go-karts on the big track. And I love the area, I love the racetrack, I love the people here, the fans are great. I have a lot of friends in the surrounding area that have been coming for many years. But really good racing as well. I like qualifying towards the front because the attitude is way different. There's championship mindsets towards the top 5, 6, and 7, which was really great. Nick Shaney's been working really, really hard. He's my co-driver, obviously my teammate. The Karis Kallis racing team has been just really hit it out of the park this weekend with the car. We've been doing some testing that's been super positive, and it's all paying off for us this weekend. The car's fast.
Well, fingers crossed the rest of the way.
Yes, and thanks to Toyota. They're a great manufacturer to work with, and we have some good support behind us.
It's 1998 World Challenge T1 class champion Terry Borchard, by the way, in a Saleen Mustang that was run with some support from actor Tim Allen, if you go back to the late 90s. But enough of that. Right now, this has our attention. The change in drivers has occurred and the battle is on. Todd Coleman in the overall lead. Brian Putt right behind, also fighting for the Pro-Am lead. 1 and 2 locked together and Coleman goes wide.
He does go wide and he's got to watch that. He'll probably get a warning on that in terms of track limits. They're going to call it in turn 1. Other areas of the racetrack going to let it go. So he is definitely feeling the pressure right now. Didn't roll big speed through turn 3. Brian Putt is ever closer.
That he is. Brian Putt, Kit and Cook, they swept the weekend in the season opener at Sonoma, but it has been a dire season since then. Looking for a shot in the arm, and Brian Putt is there to deliver. He lunges to the inside, now back in line into the braking zone for 5.
Yeah, Todd Coleman looked pretty much under control there. Nice run through turn 5. Certainly Brian Putt has showcased he may have a little bit more pace. Looks to the inside into turn 6. This is going to be tight. So tight, they almost touch.
He had contact here in the GT America race this morning. Learned his lesson, though, kept the nose clean. But while they duel, keep an eye in the background. These are class cars, too. Sabo and Adelson. It looks like Sabo did get around the Premier car. In fact, he jumped up 2 spots in that pit cycle. So he now runs 3rd overall for Flying Lizard.
Yeah, and Sabo has had a win already here today. Can he double up? Runs a little bit wide here through the castle. Got to be careful you don't get pick up on those tires here. On the left side, that'll certainly be tested here as they run through the kink at high speed.
Top 4 separated by just about a second and a half as they come through the kink, and Putt's got to run off on the dirty side of the racetrack. He goes side by side with Todd Coleman for the overall and class lead. Down to Canada corner, Putt edges ahead, gets on the binders and does slot in ahead. Brian Putt to P1.
Coleman now needs just to regroup it a little bit, reset, just try and hit his mark, see if he can hang on to the lead here, see if there's any opportunity.
Under 20 minutes to go and a new leader for the 3rd time in this race. It was Eric Filgueras who dominated the early stages. A mechanical issue sidelined him. That brought Aaron Telitz to the front for smooth racing. And after the driver change, now Brian Putt showing the way here at Road America.
Watch Elias Sabo, he's really gapped Adam Adelson immediately there. You can see it now putting the heat on Coleman for P2. He may have the pace in his Aston Martin to go chase down Brian Putt for the win.
To my eye, that is the quickest car in this gaggle for sure. Elias Sabo, 3rd place. But on the ragged edge, you could see that car twitching as he tried to put the power down.
Tell you what, Coleman threw it through turn 1 and the car was sticking. Big speed there. Looks like his high-speed performance is good, just needs to roll a bit more minimum speed through these slower corners.
Should also update you that there is a drive-through penalty issued to Ross West. That is the 6th place car overall and in class. Pit stop violation. Here's the move. Sabo to the inside of Coleman, and he takes the spot away.
Nice clean move there. Just keep it nice and tidy. And I think now we have cleared that super, we'll see who has the pace in the 2 lead Aston Martin maybe to grab the win.
There's also an incident under review. The Rotec Mustang, not sure if it was Edgar Lau or Conrad driving at the time, but evidently made contact with the number 52 car. That's Tom Capizzi, John Capestro Dubets. Frankly, I don't know where that car went. They were a front runner, and they may have had a problem, so that has something to do, I suppose, with what's under review here. Also, so much happening all at once. Kevin Conway does hold the lead in silver, but it was less than half a second last time at the line with Gavin Sanders starting to close in the car that Mackay Stevens started.
Yeah, and for Sanders, he really needs that win. He needs to grab all of the points they can with Phil Garris and Macklin not going to finish here today in class, the championship leaders.
Well, we promised a wild second half of the race. That is the trend in this championship. Coleman is now dropped back into the clutches of Adam Adelson. He's been one of the breakout stars of the season, both here in Pirelli GT4 America as well as the single driver GT America Championship.
And these are all for positions within the same class. Top 6 right now are Pro-Am combinations.
That's right, top running silver is Conway, then Sanders, then Smith. They're in lockstep. Nick Shanny still leads in the car Terry Borchard started, down in 10th overall, but has a nice gap ahead of Alain Stad, who runs in the 16th overall position.
Yeah, I think the big key there is going to be for Stad, Walker, and Postons. If they can catch Nick Shanny by the end of this race, he's got several cars between he and the other class chasers.
Here comes Adelson. Got the run, got the position, and he got the spot as well. With 16 minutes to go, you can move him up onto the podium. Adam Adelson charging.
Still a nice run for Todd Coleman. He has nowhere near the experience the other drivers he's competing against at this level. Just settle in, just try and hang with them. See what you can learn here in the last 16 minutes of this race.
Saw a glimpse of Schwess serving that drive-through penalty. That will drop them outside, I suspect, of the top 10 in Pro-Am, or at least down to the bottom half, where the points come very thin. Let's see what Sabo can do. I'll say this, Putt has put himself in a nice rhythm. In fact, was the quicker of the two that last time around. Adelson's got some pace too. He's running basically the same lap times as these top two.
Yeah, these are very evenly matched. The front two runners right now aboard similar Aston Martin vantages, of course. Just a 10th of a second separated them on the last lap. Looks like Elias really struggles to just get that car online. Oh, it's an on and off there. That's the Lone Star entry, the new Mercedes to our field.
Zane Hodgin behind the wheel. In a partial schedule a couple seasons ago, racing in the touring car ranks with the Lone Star Racing team. Oh, it's tight here in the carousel. Jason Bell got the inside open. And Alain Stad took a peek. That was Alain.
A bit feisty right there, isn't it? Cars everywhere.
Unbelievable how close this field is. The mid-pack battles always worth the price of admission. Lau to the inside. He wants to take that spot away from Shanny. Not from class position. That's a Pro-Am on Am. Hodgin just going a little wide. That lets Bell slip up the inside and back to the front. Does look like Sabo has closed that gap down. It was 9/10 the last time. This time, 5/10 of a second.
Yeah, it's really tightening up the front. It's really tightening up in that AM battle as well. With Shanley losing a couple of spots there. There's a lot of close chases now in that AM class. Going to be right nipping at his heels here before the checkered flag.
We're at the quarter pole. Just 14 and a half minutes to go in this 60-minute sprint. These tires will be screaming because they've been run the entire duration, but they still got to last another 14 minutes. Around one of the most high-deg circuits on the calendar.
Yeah, I hate to call it the Wisconsin cheese grater, but it definitely abuses these Pirelli tires, and it's all about what did your teammate do in the first half of this race to give you some decent rubber to finish with.
Top three have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. That's Putt, B-Sport Racing, the team that he owns. It's managed by his co-driver Kenton Cook and Kenton's wife. Elias Sabo driving for the famed Flying Lizard operation. And Adam Adelson, Premier Racing, the team. A lot of the components of the old White Lightning team behind that operation based in Las Vegas. There's a look at the brain trust for B-Sport. Kitten's got the headset on center screen. He's waving at us right on cue.
Eric Peterson, the engineer, there to his left. Been an up and down season for these drivers. Started off with a bang, right? But then been tough sledding since that point.
It has. They were series runners-up in Pro-Am last year. Into the season on a high. Started the season in a huge way, as you mentioned. Since then, the luck has not fallen their way. But they kept a big smile on their face through the whole thing.
Adam Adelson's not going away either. He's running similar pace to the leaders. So if they start to fight a little bit and compromise their lap times, he's going to be right there with them and close in on them with 12 minutes to go.
An update on the silver battle. Conway has built a gap now over Sanders. We talked about it being a half a second. That was 2 laps ago, 2.5 laps. It's now 2 seconds. So Kevin Conway and John Jesbray are looking like they might be in a position to challenge for their first win of the season, but this is a drag race. Putt looked like he lost some momentum, and that has him vulnerable to a charge from Elias Sabo.
He's right there. And this is what Adelson will be looking for these two drivers to start to fight it out, compromise their lap time a little bit maybe. Sabo looks to the inside. Bold move. He's in there deep. Can he keep it together? No, he's wide.
Went in with a big head of steam built up, slips to the outside, slots right back in front of Adelson, who's taking a peek to the inside now, jinks to the outside. It was a challenge for the lead. Now it's all defense, just trying to hold on to second.
This is perfect with Brian Puck, because now Sabo's going to have to go on the defense with Adelson right there with him. Thought that may play out that way. Just a lot more experience on board with Brian Putt. He's been in this situation many times before, unlike Elias Sabo, who's very much on the steep end of the learning curve in terms of race conditions like this, battling for the lead. Adelson deep to the outside into turn 5.
Can't make it stick around the outside, but can he cross it over? Sabo leaves him some room, crowns him a little bit on the way up to 6. Whoa. Sabo comes out, still holding that position and loving every bit of this is Brian Putt, who had a lead of less than 0.2 of a second at the stripe, and now it has expanded to about 10 car lengths.
He's the biggest cheerleader for this battle and scrap for P2, because it's just allowing him to extend that lead back out there, and time is running out for the chasers.
11 minutes, that's all that remains here at Road America. Let's get another update from the pit lane and Shea.
This wonderful battling for the lead on track is equally matched by the battling on the pit lane, because B-Sport over my left shoulder with their Aston Martin, Flying Lizard over my right shoulder with their Aston Martin. The two teams side by side, and the cheering just goes back and forth depending on whichever one is in the lead.
It's always fun to be in the middle of that down on the pit lane, Shea. Enjoy it. Great fight on our hands, although now the fight between the Astons is broken off. It's Aston versus Porsche, and entering into the mix, this could get interesting. Kevin Conway has caught these two runners here, second and third overall, but that is a silver class car. He's being pursued by Gavin Sanders, who's not so far behind himself, so he can't really afford to be patient working through this fight. Full course yellow has just come out, a big hit that is exiting the kink. Debris is everywhere. I think that's a lot of polystyrene, maybe from a sign by the track, but also some parts from the car. And for now, that means this battle is broken off. We go behind the safety car for the first time, and this is why. Happened well up the road. That's the Lone Star Mercedes. Hodgen hard into the barrier.
Yeah, that's a big hit. I think that was pretty much center punched.
Oof. Now we've had a few of those here today. Talk about what a great track this is, and it's absolutely true, but when it bites hard.
Certainly does, and just looking down the order here, there's been a bit of a change in the AM class with Rob Walker now assuming the lead from Charlie Postons. Girazzi up in her podium position. Nick Shanny on that lap has dropped down to 4, so this yellow has come out 1 lap too late for Nick Shanny to hang on to that AM lead.
Still a good result. I think that would match a season best. Actually, that might be their season best. I remember where they came home yesterday. any event, a good result in the offing for Karis Callis, Shanny, and Terry Borchard, who we heard from earlier.
I think they finished 5th in the first round of the championship at Sonoma, but I think 4th was their best yesterday, and sitting P4 today.
To match that, a couple of 4th place finishes. Nice boost for that team. This is the first year for Nick competing at this level. It's a big step, no doubt about that. But to have Terry Borchard to lean on is a huge asset. Top overall speeds. Race Vision powered by AWS. BMW, Porsche, BMW. 155, nearly 156 miles per hour in one of these GT4 cars.
Yeah, they really hustle around here. It's amazing. GT3 cars are about 165, so they're only a 10-mile-an-hour delta between the top GT4 cars and the top GT3 category cars. They'll do that about 3 times around this race circuit. We talked about the configuration up into turn 1, down into 5, and then down with the run through kettle bottoms to turn 12, Canada corner.
It puts a lot of strain on the powertrains of these cars, the braking system. So many of the big braking zones are downhill, which makes it just that more trying. But you also have some long duration and high speed corners where it's not like you could just trim these cars out from a downforce perspective. You do need some of that stability in a corner like the carousel, for instance.
Yeah, particularly with tire degradation, is it may be fine on fresh tires to trim the car out, but what are you going to be dealing with late into the run? So that has to be factored in as well. You can maybe go for a qualifying run and be a bit more low downforce, but you definitely need some stick towards the end.
Cars carefully picking their way through the debris field. And Cameron Lawrence had given that Lone Star Mercedes a really good drive in the opening stint. It's great to have Cameron over here. Done a lot of Trans Am racing in recent years, but whenever he shows up in a sports car, more traditional GT car than the tube-framed Trans Am machine, he's right there on the pace.
Yeah, quality guy, great racer, and just keeps continuing to network and create opportunities for himself. Not sure we're going to see any more action here today. I think the clock is going to wind down, and that cleanup's going to take a little bit longer. So, unfortunate end to what was developing into a brilliant race. I think all of the class positions were certainly up for grabs and wins potentially.
Think about the performance there under duress from Bryant Putt, especially bouncing back from some frustration this morning. He had a spin, he had the contact, and a separate incident in the GT America race, but he put all that behind him. And then when push came to shove, he was just the right amount of aggressive, making his way forward. And also in his defense of the lead when Sabo made the run.
Yeah, he was. And that was a real key moment there for him when Sabo went deep into turn 1, ran a little bit wide. Brian just got his head down and focused forward. Having said that, I mean, if they hustle, maybe we're going to get 1 lap of green here. There's enough time on the clock to get back around and beat the clock running out.
The last lap was a 4:18. So, yep, you're right. But that would still need the cleanup to be completed. We just went red and checkered simultaneously. So that answers that question. Initial report is the driver is all right. And we hope that is indeed the case. It looked like a big crash. They always are in that part of the racetrack. There's just no room to maneuver. And it brings to an end a thrilling weekend for Pirelli GT4 America here at Road America. The series heads next to Sebring, then a trip to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway where they will wrap up their season. There is your race winner overall and in Pro-Am, Brian Putt, Kenton Cook, with their first win since all the way back in March when they won rounds 1 and 2 of the championship in Sonoma. Silver class win. How about this? Smooge Racing, they make the jump from Am to silver. They've been running in podium contention much of the year. Admittedly, there was bad luck for the dominant team in the championship, RS1, here today, but Conway showed good pace during his stint. John Jesbray certainly did as well. And it looks like their first silver class win is en route, assuming they can just make it around to Parc Fermé.
And that 67-point lead that Filgueras and Mackler had coming into today's round will be sliced back 18 points by Sanders aboard the 34 machine that he shares with Mackay Stevens. So it's a big points day for them. Still a 47-point lead, but nonetheless, it gives them hope with 4 rounds to go. Still 100 points on the table with 4 rounds remaining.
For Sanders and Stevens, as we look at our AM class winners for Auto Technic, Rob Walker and Phil Singer. But for Stevens and Sanders, they find themselves out of the championship picture more or less. This will help, certainly, to close in, but it's still a long way to go, especially in a class where it's not like there are a lot of cars, so a bad day, assuming you at least finish the race, is still not that terrible of a day. It was bad today because they didn't reach 70%, so no points earned. But you look at what Sanders and Stevens have done, podiums in all but 2 races this season, and yet they find themselves in this massive hole. So dominant has RS1 been. Dominant in the opening was this car, thanks to Aaron Thielens. He was very fast, as you can see with the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race.
I think that was his last lap before he hit pit lane, right? We talked about hammer time and laying down qualifying laps. Well, certainly Aaron Thielens did that. Great run for Todd Coleman. I mean, they'll be a little bit disappointed to finish just off the podium, but he'll have learned a lot today. It's extra pressure, and dealing with all of that, I thought he did it very nicely.
I would agree. It's a tough position to find yourself in. You inherit the overall lead, and all right, Todd, go hang on to it, right? With a bunch of guys that have been at this for a while right there behind him. This will be their best results of the season to date. Provisional results from race 2. Top 3 overall, all from the Pro-Am class. B-Sport Racing, Flying Lizard, and Premier Racing. Those top 3 teams. Then you get to silver. John Jesbray, Kevin Conway, first win of the year for that pairing. Mackay Stevens and Gavin Sanders, yet another podium finish for them. They're first and second in silver. Third to Zach Anderson and Austin Smith. That's a much needed result for them. They've had good pace, have not had the results to date. Then you go back to AM. Phil Singer and Walker pick up a victory just outside the top 10 overall. Really impressive stuff from the AM class. And then you find Postins and Clay. They do it again. Even if they're not winning, they're right there, nipping at the heels. In fact, it was less than 2 seconds they were behind Walker at the last measurement. And that's huge for them. They are that much closer to wrapping up the AM title.
Well, incredibly, it's only one race this year, the second round at NOLA Motorsports Park, that they have not finished in the top 2 in class all season long.
That will certainly win you a title just about every year, if not in every instance. As we go down further in the order, some that had some misfortune. It's weird to see McAleer and Filgueras that far down, 29th overall. Their one hiccup on the season to date. Shay is standing by with a couple of happy folks down in Victory Lane.
It's been a while since the last victory, but Brian, Victory Lane is no unfamiliar place for you. How good does it feel to get back here?
It feels really, really good. You know, we've had an up and down season. We've had some adversity, some self-inflicted. But, you know, we've worked hard. We've tried to do the right things. Kenton ran an amazing stint and gave me a great car. Man, it just feels really, really good, and I'm very thankful to be here.
And Kenton, for you, the race almost ended at the start. It looked like you got held up there. How hard was it to rein it back and just be patient?
I mean, yeah, we just had to, well, one, I was just trying to leave tires on it for this guy so he can fight forward. I knew Aaron was going to be blistering out there at the beginning, and sure enough, he was. And I was like, hopefully he just burns his tires off so when Todd gets in, Brian doesn't have too hard of a time. So thankfully that worked out for us, and Sabo was coming right at the end. And man, yeah, Brian did a good job holding him off.
Congratulations to you both.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good pairing that two has turned into. They've been working together for a while, went racing together a couple years back, and here in year 3 of this program, they're showing good strength, even if the results haven't always been there, as they alluded to. But I think that is a really healthy relationship between these two. It almost seems like father and son sometimes.
It does, and I love Brian's attitude. He realizes it's been up and down the season. As he said, some of the problems have been self-inflicted. They've learned a lot and rebounded nicely here. There's Eric Peterson, who always kind of steers them, no pun intended, in the right direction.
Well, Kevin Conway and John Jesbray, they've won their fair share of races, but never before in the silver class. Let's hear from them now.
It's been a long time coming, but for this duo, it's good to get back into the victory lane. I'll start with you, John. That opening stint looked like you had your hands full out there, didn't you?
Yeah, the tire pressure was a bit high, so we were kind of struggling with that for the first few minutes, and I was over on the radio telling the team, hey, I need to pit as early as possible, get Kevin in, bleed the tires, get some grip out there, and pass the car over to Kevin, and he did an amazing job and got past some traffic. I think we had the pace for the win for sure. I mean, it's one thing to catch, it's another to pass, but it was disappointing with the safety car, but we got our first win, and I'm really happy for that. So.
And Kevin, for you would have been aware of the championship implications, having been on the pit box for the beginning. How much was that playing into your mind over the course of your stint?
It played into our minds huge because of the huge mistake I made yesterday and put our team into a big hole. But it was nice to kind of dig out of that and make sure that we stayed ahead of the Conquest Mercedes for points. And knowing that McLaren and Filgaris with their issues gave us the opportunity to capitalize. And man, this win's a long time coming. This series is really, really tough to win in. It's a very competitive series, and we're just incredibly thankful for every guy and girl on Smooth Racing. They worked really, really hard this weekend, repairing damaged race cars and giving us very fast Toyota Supras. So very thankful to Jesbray Group, Cooper Natural Resources, and Crescent Tools that make it happen.
Congrats, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff. And another example of mentor and mentee and dynamic pairing they turned into in a quick amount of time.
They really have, and as Kevin said, he made a little mistake. Very rare for him to do that sort of thing coming into pit lane yesterday. I'm not sure whether it was just undoing his seatbelts or whatever. He was distracted there, ran in the back of Sanders and got the penalty on that one. So big day. And also it's interesting when John says, well, we thought we could win. Well, you did win, but overall victory is that little cherry on the top that everyone's looking for.
That's what he was gunning for, that's for sure. One more set of winners, and Shay's found them.
Yeah, and I'll start with Alex because that was a great end of the race. It was very hectic out there. What was it like from behind the wheel?
Busy. There's always somebody on me and chasing. So just work, focus forward, push forward, and try and leave him some tires to drive him off.
It looked like it was going to be a very interesting end of the race because the AM leader at the pit stop was so far up the field. How did you get him back?
Oh, I don't know. I was just staying focused in the front. Had a lot of help from my crew. Just drive him down.
Congratulations to both of you guys. Winners at Road America.
Thank you.
Makes it sound so simple. Just drive him down.
Yeah, just make it happen.
Why didn't I think of that? But, of course, a whole lot more goes into it, and congratulations on a really nice result there for that duo. Let's look at the highlights of Race 2 of the weekend now. Aaron Seelitz was an aggressor early on, going side-by-side with Kevin Cook. That allowed Eric Filgaris to get away to some degree, but it wasn't to last.
There you see Telitz runs the cushion there out of turn 5, side-by-side climbing the hill. It's a great battle up front all day long.
Further back as ever, Pirelli GT4 America, a wild place to be. This is Telitz and Phil Singer going at it, but this actually was the first sign of weakness, and ultimately there was an issue with that Porsche.
Yeah, Filgaris ultimately has that suspension failure coming into the carousel just a few corners later. Hits the sand, there's a red, there's a reset, but this was a great battle up front.
This was after the driver change. Brian Putt working on Todd Coleman for the overall lead, and he got it done into Canada corner.
Yeah, and that was very important. Gets the lead, but he came under heat a little bit later as well. Adelson, another great run, gets his car up into a podium spot as well.
He was right there in the thick of things, as was his co-driver Elliott Skier throughout the course of their race. Unfortunately, though, it was a late caution and ultimately red flag that brought it into proceedings. Your overall winners, though, Brian Putt and Kenton Cook from B Sport Racing. Fun race here today, fun weekend of racing for Pirelli GT4 America. Somehow, just 4 races remain in the season. Next, we head to Sebring for a pair of 60-minute sprints before wrapping up the season at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That'll do it for our coverage from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Road America. So long for now.